So again, Brett Jennings here, and as we kick this training off, I'm just setting the context for this moment of time that we're in, and that my first day and first week in training in real estate was downtown San Jose, and this Alan Dalton stood in the front of the room, and he said one thing that I remembered, and it actually made me decide what kind of real estate agent I wanted to be. And he said from the front of the room, the problem with the real estate industry is that the consumer's general perception of a real estate transaction is a fee-inflated event to perpetuate an inefficient industry. And I was like, oh crap, like I just came from another, business that I had sold in financial services to get into real estate. And this is what this guy has to say about the real estate industry. And he went on to say, the second thing was when consumers were surveyed about their perception of real estate agents as salespeople, as they rank against other salespeople, was one step above used car salespeople. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like this is the business I got in. And that was 15 years ago. And I made a decision at that moment. I was like, you know what? I'm going to find a way to be a better agent and to deliver real estate services such that the value that I bring as an agent never comes into question, that the value I bring as an agent far exceeds the commission I'm ever paid. And for that reason, it made me kind of relentless in my search over the last 15 years. I probably sat in hundreds, if not thousands of hours of seminars, workshops, mastermind groups with top agents all across the country. I've flown hundreds of thousands of miles, really seeking out people who were doing amazing things in real estate, and it paid off. I was able to grow myself from a real estate salesperson, my first couple of years doing 10 million a year, to build a team that did 100 million. And now, this kind of mega team rich model that we did a $1 billion in 1 year. And I say that not to impress you, but to impress upon you that when you're really committed to doing right by the client or the customer, you will always have plenty of business. So that I want to just kind of set the stage, but Joe, you want to talk a little bit about kind of the background, and we can go back and forth a little bit here about what we're going to cover. So all of you obviously are here because you have some. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
All of you here, obviously, because you were invited to this conversation, which is becoming hyper relevant. We knew last year the Department of Justice lawsuit came about. Boom, $1.8 billion settlement, triple damages because it's an antitrust suit. National Association of Realtors is up against the ropes, as is Keller Williams. And so the financial settlement was one piece of it. But what we knew was going to take a little more time and is now finally coming down the pike was something called, it's the second half of what happens after that judgment was issued, and it's called injunctive relief. Now, injunctive relief is what are the stipulations that the court has to say about what are the technicalities and how this is all going to come to be expressed in our MLSs and our CAR contracts and how this is all going to work. And really, two things have happened. One is we've had a local player, which we're going to hear when I say a local player, local broker, who kind of took a stance on this knowing what was coming. And some might say, hey, what a jerk. And other people might say, hey, this person's really smart. Was Ken De Leon and his listing partner, Michael Repka. They're now running massive TV ads everywhere, postcard mailers everywhere, telling consumers, really letting them know that, hey, you don't have to pay the 2.5% to a buyer. In fact, we only pay 10 grand. And if a buyer wants to come write the offer direct with us, we'll let them write it, and we won't even pay them, we won't even charge you the 10 grand. So that is, in my mind, somebody who's trying to get ahead of where this could be and likely is going. So, the conversation we're having today is so you can be prepared and avoid what I call a commissionectomy. So, right, you don't go on to one of these listings. Now, there are, truth be told, as we've been talking about this in mastermind circles with other agents in the local community, we have been discussing this, and there's not a lot. There's very few right now listings that are only offering the 10K or offering 0. But with what has been stipulated, if you read the Inman article that came out on Friday, what looks like is going to happen is the National Association of Realtors has been petitioning the court to say, no, no, can we leave some kind of situation where the seller can pay the buyer agent commission through the listing agreement? And the Department of Justice is in the bottom right corner. You can see this headline here. It says DOJ rejects the court settlement, affirms the importance of decoupling agent commissions. What does decoupling agent commissions mean? It means completely separating the buyer agent commission from the listing agreement so that there will be no cooperative conversing compensation offered through the MLS. So we're going to talk today about what that could mean and how you can get paid and how you want to, one, think about it, because I think this truly could be for good buyer's agents that are really committed to being an expert and being a great negotiator and really delivering value. Those of you who are in that camp can do very, very well coming out of this. So, Joey, anything you want to add in kind of your thoughts and experience around this and what agent sentiment has been?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to talk to, I don't know, probably 50 to 100 agents regarding this, just to see sort of where, where the chips fall. And there's a very wide array of sentiment. There's people who are upset about this. They think that this is going to end, the doomsday seekers who are going to end. It's going to end buyer commission forever, and it's going to destroy the real estate industry. Then there are the people who are like, this is just par for the course, one more blip on the radar of all of us trying to get where we need to go. Then there's people on the other side, like Ken DeLeon, who are taking a stand. And whether it be one way or the other, they're in the process of making a decision based off of before someone else is requiring them to do so. So I want to preface some of what we're going to talk about today. I do want to let you know that the decoupling of commissions is not actually a brand new thing in the world of real estate. There are MLSs across the United States that have had decoupled commissions for years and years and years. And it has affected the ability for the seller to choose to pay a 2.5% commission, 0%. And they have the same thing that that the DOJ is fighting for right now. That already exists, and it hasn't stopped them. I do believe that there is a distinction between the average market across the United States and markets like California or Silicon Valley in particular, where price points are astronomical. And so as we sort of step into this, I want to give you I have a little bit of humor that I'm going to throw in here, a little video I'm going to share with you. And it's just, I want to open up yourself to this idea. So the purpose of today, what's the goal out of today? The goal is this bottom little paragraph here. I want to make sure that you learn how to stay ahead of whatever the shifting real estate landscape looks like. We are going to provide you with a decade-long proven system that shows and shares your value proposition with your buyers. And it will work to secure your income opportunity and ultimately guarantee you a minimum of 2.5%, should you choose to. We're going to show you how you, as the agent, can actually negotiate this for yourself prior to you needing to negotiate it at the end of the deal. And I believe we have a pretty good system to actually make that happen.
I think, Joey, you just touched on a good point. One of the key things is you want to get ahead of this, both as it emerges and finds its way into the market. Most likely, this will probably end up kind of, if you all remember, we had the clear cooperation policy that came out a few years ago, where about off-market properties in California, the state legislature and the California Association of Realtors said, okay, here's the deal, guys. You're going to have to do it like X, Y, and Z, and you got 3 months or 4 months to get into compliance. That's likely what will happen here. And we're just encouraging you and congratulate you on taking the time actually to educate yourself to get ahead of it. So, but Joey, I think you want to kind of talk a little bit about the mindset piece, this bit of humor that we want.
Yeah, let me start by saying that your mind is like a parachute. I promise you it works better if you leave it open. Like, I can guarantee you. And so as we step into this moving forward, please make sure that you're coming into this with an open mind, open to all possibilities, all potential outcomes, the good, the bad, everything. Because if we close ourselves off to opportunity, I can promise you we close ourselves off to more than just the thing that we're saying we don't believe is going to happen. Tony Robbins has a quote. If you don't know who Tony Robbins is, you should get out from under that rock you're under and actually listen to this guy because he knows what he's talking about. Success in this specifically is 80% mindset and 20% what you do about it. So here, I'm going to play a little video for mindset, and then we're going to jump into the 20% that's actually actionable for what you can do. If you like Seinfeld, you'll love this.
Every decision I've ever made in my entire life has been wrong. My life is the complete opposite of everything I want it to be. Every instinct I have in every aspect of life, be it something to wear, something to eat, it's all been wrong.
Tuna on toast, coleslaw, cup of coffee.
Yeah. No, wait a minute. I always have tuna on toast. Nothing's ever worked out for me with tuna on toast. I want the complete opposite of tuna on toast. Chicken salad on rye, untoasted, with a side of potato salad and a cup of tea.
Well, there's no telling what can happen from this.
You know, chicken salad's not the opposite of tuna. Salmon's the opposite of tuna, because salmon swim against the current, and the tuna swim with it.
Good for the tuna.
George, you know that woman just looked at you.
So what? What am I supposed to do?
Go talk to her.
Elaine, bald men with no jobs and no money who live with their parents don't approach strange women.
Well, here's your chance to try the opposite. Instead of tuna salad and being intimidated by women, chicken salad and going right up to them.
Yeah, I should do the opposite. I should.
If every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right.
Yes, I will do the opposite. I used to sit here and do nothing and regret it for the rest of the day. So now I will do the opposite, and I will do something. Excuse me, I couldn't help but notice that you were looking in my direction.
Oh, yes, I was. You just ordered the same exact lunch as me.
My name is George. I'm unemployed and I live with my parents.
I'm Victoria. Hi.
All right. So if you're thinking about going for the gold, I promise you the unemployed route does not work, just in case you were wondering. Let me move this to the next one.
I think the takeaway here is doing the opposite, right? What we've been
Absolutely.
trained to do is basically get paid by the seller. And now you're going to look for the opportunity, or not look for the opportunity, you're going to be invited into the opportunity to get paid by your buyer. And it's most likely going to get forced upon us. But Joe, you want to continue on?
Yeah. So I love this graphic because this is how most agents live their whole lives, which is with their head in the sand about what's going on. Oh my gosh, Instagram? No, who needs it? Facebook? Who needs to be on that? Oh my goodness, TikTok? I'm too old. Oh my goodness. Buyer representation agreements? No. Zillow, Redfin's 1%? No, it'll be fine. We live in a world where we put our head in the sand and hope for the best. And I'm telling you right now, this is not the opportunity to leave your head in the sand for. But if nothing changes, and let me just offer this to you, if nothing changes with the buyer's commissions and your ability to be paid the way we've been paid, if nothing changes, the rest of this conversation we're going to have will level up your ability to work with, maintain, and create the most referable business you could possibly imagine. So I invite you to open your parachute, take your head out of the sand, and let's do the opposite of what we think we might be able to do or should do. And let's dive in. So how many of you here, raise your hand or give me a thumbs up. How many of you have a formal buyer's presentation? You have one. All right, I see about 5, 6, 7. Okay, I see a couple hands. Awesome. Now here's the fun question. How many of you actually use your formal buyer's presentation? The hands are
And buyer
significantly
agreements,
less.
if you have one.
All right, awesome. Fantastic. All right, so we're going to dive into this is the key part. This is one of the key parts of this, which is that we have to start using these things. We have to start getting comfortable in the uncomfortable of having conversations around the buyer broker agreement, the BBA. And so we're going to show you our version of that, which is a little bit unique. And we're going to go over what we call the 5 keys to getting paid what you're worth. And so, Brett, I'll let you take on this next piece.
Yeah, yeah. And as I share this, I just want to reiterate that this isn't actually theory, but this is practice. This is what variations of this I have been using in my business from literally the day I started my real estate team. I got in the business in 2008. I started my team in 2011, and I was trained on a buyer agency agreement where we were asking for 3% when the market was 2.5%. And guess what? We were getting it. So I'm going to show you how to get it because we got the buyer to agree to it. But the 5 things that you really need to be able to do to have a buyer pay your full commission, because let me ask you guys a question. Do you think, like if you went out and sold a $2 million house today, and at the end of the transaction, you said, oh, shoot, well, just found out, I'm sorry, that the seller is not offering the compensation on this. My fee's 2.5%. You got to write me a check for 50 grand. How many of you think your buyers would be willing to do that? Probably, I didn't see anybody's hand going up. Now, would they be willing to pay something? Give me a thumbs up. Like, would your buyers be willing to pay something? I got a few people with a thumbs up. So the question is, they're not willing to pay 50,000, right? You check for 50,000, but they are be willing to pay something. So really, what they're willing to pay is a function of the value that you bring. And the first principle that we want to talk about is bringing true value. And what is true value? Well, it is your ability to negotiate, is one, right? With buyers, not with buyers, with sellers. In a hot market like we are, your ability to negotiate is more negotiating with a listing agent to get them to accept your offer, right? When there's 22 other offers. But your ability to negotiate and to get that buyer into contract so they don't miss out on time 2 or time 3 or time 4. So one of the things, principles we're going to talk about is tracking your numbers so you can articulate or tell your buyers, you know what? Most agents takes them 4 times, 5 times writing offers to get one accepted, but I get my clients accepted in 2. But so bringing true value. One of the things I will encourage you, if you are going to stay involved in the buyer side of the business, is get a certification in negotiation. If you don't have the CNE designation, Certified Negotiation Expert, get it. It's a 2-day course. It's a few $100. But more than anything, when consumers are surveyed and they're asked what are the important qualities they want in a real estate agent, a good negotiator is one of them. And if you have a training and you're certified in it, that's going to be one of the things that's going to is going to help you get there. So the first thing is bringing that value. The second principle is believing, Joey. The second principle is not just bringing the value, but you must believe in your value. So I asked the question, how many of you believe that your clients would write you a check for 50 grand if they had to pay it, and nobody raised their hand? So that means you don't believe that the value of your services are $50,000 for getting a buyer into contract in our market. We've just been conveniently taking advantage of a system and a status quo that's afforded us that opportunity. But you have to believe in your value. And I can promise you, when we get to one of these other principles, when you start to document what you're doing for your clients, you'll start to recognize your value and believe your value, because you have to believe your value before step number 3, Joey.
I think we actually have one more piece of this puzzle, which is, let me ask you the question. We live in Silicon Valley, where the average price for a home is somewhere around $1.4 to $1.6 million. And there are homes that are listed for $6.5 million, 6.48. This home here is listed for $6.488 million, and they are paying a 0.015% commission, which is $9,998. And so the remainder of the traditional commission structures of 2.5% is roughly $152,500 that we're going to have to ask a buyer to pay for us. Is there anybody on this call that feels like their services are valued for this transaction at $152,000? Okay, so let's break it down. Thank you, Neka. I appreciate that. Let's break it down a little bit softer. So this is happening in our market right now. This is the De Leon Realty that we mentioned to you. So here's De Leon. This is an interesting conversation because De Leon actually started as a discount broker. He saw Redfin jump on the 1% model, and he created a brokerage that did the same thing. So he would list for 1% and offer 2.5% to the buy side for a total of 3.5% commission. And he would offer all of the services: home prepping, marketing, inspection, staging, and then had an attorney on retainer, Michael Repka, who would offer legal services as well. And so he became the #1 listing agent for high-priced listings in the Bay Area. One of the top agents in the world with using this model. Now, interestingly enough, his agents are paid a salary. They do not make a commission. So they're paid a salary annually based off of their sales production. Now, what's interesting about this switch for him is that he has switched all of the fee. His fee actually hasn't changed. It's still 3.5%, but now the entire fee goes onto the listing side, which is, and anybody else ever been on here going like, man, why is it that listing agents take such little commission and offer so much to buy side agents when listing agents do all the dang work? We do all the prepping, all of the staging conversations. We get the photos done. We've got to show the property a million times. Like, he's answering the same question. He said, hey, we're going to do all the work for you for 3.5%. And he's only offering the buy side $10,000. He's also told his sellers that it is up to the buyer's agent to negotiate their commission. And if we represent the buyer at the De Leon team, we will waive the $10,000 commission. And so it costs you only 3.5% to sell, which is an unbelievably brilliant thing that he did for himself and his business. He took his margins for listings from 1% to 3.5%, and took his risk on the buy side from 2.5% to $10,000 to potentially zero. So this is actually happening in our market right now. And if I'm being really transparent with you all, I believe in myself like immensely. I believe that I bring a ton of value, and I would have a hard time going to my buyer and saying, hey, listen, you've got to pay me $155,000 on top of the $6.5 million that you're going to purchase this property with. And so we have to figure out what number makes sense. And so let me give you the numbers here. On a $1.6 million sale in Silicon Valley, average commission's $40,000. If we agree to pay the buyer's agent $10,000, that's a $30,000 delta. How many of you on this call feel comfortable enough to ask your buyers at 1.6 million to pay an additional $30,000 to you? And this might be more people. This might be a handful more because the number is obviously smaller. But some of us are sitting in this call going, I'm not even comfortable asking for that. And this is the conversation that we need to have, because your belief in what you offer, or your ability to communicate the value that you offer is lacking. And so we feel there's a gap. So this conversation is meant to fill the gap between where you feel like you are deserving and what you deserve to earn versus what's being offered. Does that all make sense? Okay, cool. So number 3. Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, number 3 is super important. And I learned this my second year in the business. We make the mistake, most importantly and most frequently, with our sphere of influence. We make the mistake with our sphere of influence when we don't, tell them all the things that we do. How many of you who are experienced listing agents on the call, I just want to check this, experienced agents that are on the call that actually lost a listing because you assumed it and you didn't do a listing presentation? Anybody ever had that happen? I can tell you it does, and it's kind of embarrassing, like if you're a really good agent and you go and you meet with your friend, and then like their spouse interviews another agent and they actually just do a full listing presentation, and then you lose the business to that other person. It happens and it sucks. And the only reason it happened is because you didn't tell them all the things that you do. And they'll say like, oh, well, my husband, interviewed Mary and thought she was awesome because she said she was going to do 21 things to sell the listing. And, you just came over here and we were going to sign paperwork, right? So the case in point there is you didn't take the time to articulate your value. And we have a principle in marketing saying value unarticulated is value unappreciated. So we're going to go into kind of this buyer agreement and how to master this buyer agreement. But the key principle is you have to be able to articulate your value. But before you do that, you got to get your mindset right. You got to bring it, believe it, and then articulate it. And when we talk about articulating it, this is just the rough 5 points of what was our buyer's advantage program. Now, the version I'm going to show you next is the one we're moving to. It's actually the one I originally started my team with, where we were actually getting permission upfront from the buyer to negotiate our commission with the seller as part of the purchase and sale agreement. But in order to just want to give you the general principle here, though, of what is articulating your value. So when we meet with buyers, we say, hey, there's 5 things we do, 3 things that we ask of you. The first is, number one, we're going to help you get the best in market financing through our preferred lenders. Number 2, we're going to get you access to pre-market and off-market properties. By the way, in the spectrum of what consumers value, this one right here, number 2, in our market, where it's freaking super hard to find a property and it's a dogfight to get into contract right now, that number 2 is super valuable. So if you haven't yourself curated a list of off-market properties, get access to one. We've built a list of about over 300 properties that are in coming soon status. We scraped the Top Agent Network and Zillow coming soon and Compass coming soon, as well as properties that some of our agents are prospecting, and put those on a list that we can share with our clients. Number 3, arrange private showings. Again, this is something obviously we know that we do, but articulating it to a client, telling them, hey, look, you can go to the open houses, but what I want to do, if we're going to help you buy a house, I want to take the time where we'll actually slow down. We'll get to that house on our own, where you can really take the property in, quite literally get the vibe of it, and see if it's going to be right for you and your family. And then the 4th piece is leverage our specialized knowledge. This is where we have the opportunity ourselves to kind of brag a little bit about, hey, we are certified in negotiation, actually. Collectively, our team has over 100 years of real estate experience. And most importantly, we not just specialized knowledge, but we have industry relationships. Getting your offer accepted in this market is probably one of the toughest things. And being partnered with a top agent or a top team, being part of a top team, gives us the ability to leverage those relationships to help you get your deal. And then the last one we talk about is our after sales support. If you need referral to a contractor, stager, designer, even a landscaper, all the way down to a babysitter. Once you move into that house, we want to help you make that house a home. But being able to internalize, memorize, and then articulate what are those things that you do is the first step in being able to articulate it. Now, we're going to, today, when I show you this agreement that we're going to get with our clients, our buyers, to have them agree to pay us 2.5% regardless of what's going on in the market. You'll see we actually even add more value. But this is the general principle, what I mean by articulating your value. And then Joe, you want to continue on here. The next thing you're going to want to do after articulating your value, you're going to want to prove it with numbers. And what I mean by that is that you're going to want to document and demonstrate your value. So what do I mean by document and demonstrate your value? Well, when I opened up this conversation, I said, one of the things you're going to want to do is start tracking your numbers. On average, how many offers do you got to write to get somebody in contract? And what's the average in the marketplace for average agents? I could tell you average agents are probably somewhere between 5 and 10. So if you're getting your clients in contract on their first offer or their second offer, most frequently, you're going to want to brag about that. But you're going to want to even go one level deeper. And I'll show you what I mean here, Joey, if you want to continue on. You're going to want to take a look at your stats and how you perform against the market, because someone's ability to commit to pay you 2.5%, not knowing what the outcome will be. Now, this is information that comes from a company called TrueBase. They are a startup here, was one of the founders, I believe, came from Chicago Title. They do these really cool tiles where they, this tool where they can analyze and then create these cool tiles that you can use in your marketing. We'll use this in our buyer's presentation. This is looking at my particular team's performance and looking at the number of single family homes that the buyer's agents on my team sell as compared to what the average agent in the market has been selling. Now, last year was a brutal year for a lot of people, so there wasn't a lot of sales, but on average, agents in my group were selling 16 buy sides or 7 condominium sides. But most importantly, take a look at the numbers below, okay? On the condominium side, if we look at that on the right tile there, if I'm explaining this to a buyer, I'm telling them the average agent out in the marketplace sells one condo a year. They pay $19,600 over the asking price on average, where our average negotiated list contract to list price is $7,555 under. Anybody want to guess what the difference in that numbers is? 19,600 and 7,500. It's about $26,000 difference. Okay, so I can confidently say, on average, we're beating the market when we're helping our buyers buy a condo by 25 grand by working with us. Now, do you guys think that knowing your numbers at that level would give your buyers a little more confidence about committing to paying you 2.5%? Yes or no? Right? And then if we take a look on the single family home side, is the tile on the left. And what that is saying is that the average agent in the market is paying $126,560 over asking, where on average we're getting into contract at $69,000 over asking. Okay, so we're saving over $50,000 on average for our buyer clients when they're buying a single family home. Not in every instance, but this is the average. And then the frame from which they pulled that data is down there below. So TrueBase is the company that does those. So again, remember we're talking about owning your value, like creating value, owning your value, believing in your value. Part of believing in your value is getting down into the numbers. Like when I first saw these, I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. Like now I can really even more confidently go into a meeting with a buyer almost with an S on my chest and say, hey, look, yes, we're going to talk about how we're paid and we're worth it. So that's the principle on documenting your value. And then the last piece of this is really, now that we've talked about documenting and demonstrating your value, you must get an agreement in writing about your value up front and the right to negotiate it. So here's the deal. I don't think many of you should actually be afraid about what's coming at all, because any of you listed a property before? Show of hands. Are the cameras not working, or is my, okay. Yeah, most of you guys have. If you've listed a property before, guess what? You've negotiated your commission. The only difference in the climate that's going to be changing is we've always had to do that with sellers in every meeting, right? You walk in, you tell them what you do, the 115 things you do to sell a house. You say it's going to be 5% or 6%, and they agree. We're just now going to have to do that on the buyer side. But and you want to get that agreement in writing up front. So for that reason, those of you guys who are skilled listing agents, you're used to this. For those of you who aren't used to articulating and getting agreement around your value, is it's going to be a little different. So this last principle, getting the agreement, you have to articulate your value. So Joey, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the actual agreement. Let's walk through it. So Joey, I'm going to ask you to take this part because it's a little fuzzy on the screen for me, so I can't quite read it.
No problem. So this is what we did is everything we're going to show you is actually on a 4-page document that we go through with each of our buyers. The first 3 slides we're going to go through is actually just page 1, which is the we have one commitment. The page 2 is page 1 is our commitment. Page 2 is their commitment. Page 3 is sort of the disclaimer rules that exist in the agreement. So let me read this. This is actually the overarching understanding of what our commitment is. We have one commitment when working with you, and that is to exceed your expectations while getting you the best possible price, terms, and conditions when you buy a home. To achieve this end, we've created this Buyer's Advantage program to offer you several distinct advantages and an edge over other buyers in the very competitive market. By participating in our Buyer's Advantage program, you will receive the advantages listed below, along with exclusive access to our off-market properties and best-in-marketing financing. Additionally, once you close on your home, we find for you, you will be entitled to instant enrollment into our Client Concierge Club, which includes access to our preferred vendors, client gifts, and special events as a thank you for entrusting us with your real estate needs. So this initially is just to set the stage for the things that we are going to ask of them and the things that we're going to offer. So what are the program advantages? So there's 3 distinct program advantages and then the 5 things that we do for them. So the 3 distinct program advantages. Advantage number 1 is that we will sell for free. And what this basically means is if you buy your home and you're in it and you don't like it, you realize you made a mistake. And we made a mistake together. We will list your home for free. So let me read this for you. When you work with us, we will sell the home you buy through us for free. This is how it works. During the first 18 months after your closing, if you are dissatisfied with your new home purchase for any reason at all, you simply let us know and we will list your home on the market at no charge from us. We will list your home until it sells at your price for up to 12 months after the initial listing date with us. So we're giving them 18 months plus an additional 12 on the market to sell this home if they are dissatisfied for any reason. Now, here's what I know. Just bear with me here. I know that everyone's brain is going, wait a second, I have a question. Wait a second, hold on. Details. I need to get into the nitty gritty of this. We will, I promise. It's at the back end. We'll go through all of it and there'll be time for questions. I think you promise. Advantage number 2 is the home warranty.
I do want to just give the one caveat because
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say the one caveat on that, just for some of you who might be spinning, I want to make sure you can hear the rest of what he says, so to allay some of your concerns. That sell for free is predicated on 2 things. One is it only applies if they don't. I got the balloons when I lifted my hand. That only applies if they don't like the house they purchased. And in my experience of selling hundreds and hundreds of homes, we probably only had like 2 clients that didn't like the house that they bought. So the likelihood in which you would have to fulfill on this commitment is very, very low. Second to that, it only applies if they don't like the home. If they get a job transfer and they need to move out of the area, it would not apply. And then third, it is only the listing side of the commission that you're waiving, right? So if you're a buyer agent commission is offered, which we're probably moving away from that, that would be the seller would still be subject to pay that, and obviously any transfer fees or closing costs. But we would completely waive our listing commission in likelihood. But what it does for the customer is it really puts them at ease. Like we're taking away the idea that, you know what, you can't make a mistake by working with me. I got you, is effectively what this is saying. Go ahead, Joey.
Advantage number 2 is the home warranty, which I'm assuming most of us are familiar with. We understand the importance of having the protection of a home warranty when you buy a home. When you purchase a home through us, if we are unable to get the seller to provide you with a home warranty, then we pick up the cost of providing you one. This is may seem like a no-brainer, but what we know for sure is that most buyers don't know that a home warranty is an option until the time comes where you share that we're going to ask the seller for a home warranty. And so what we do is we share our value. You may be offering this to all your buyers, but we don't end up offering it until the end. We want to share this opportunity with them up front, knowing that, hey, when we go look at these houses, if you see an AC unit that looks a little wonky, or you see some pool equipment, or you see something that you're not sure if it's going to last through the next year, don't worry, because we're going to pay for a home warranty for you or negotiate that the seller pays for it on our behalf. And then number 3 is the $10,000 savings guarantee. Go ahead, Brett.
I know this. Yeah, I know this one's gonna create it's gonna create some consternation, or oh my gosh, how are we gonna do that? Or can I make that promise for some of you? But let me read this to you. It says, we're so confident in our ability to negotiate a great buy for you on your new home that we guarantee if you do not save at least $10,000 on your home purchase with us, you'll be given the difference from the commission that is due to the agent. Okay. Now, that there are conditions to this, and it includes, 1, our ability to negotiate any concessions or credits, number 1. Number 2, it also includes, you'll see we have conditions in one of the slides, the average savings that they get from working with one of our preferred lenders against whatever the daily national published rates are. So it's not just 10,000 savings on the house, could be combined with the 10,000 in savings they get in working with our lender compared to what the national published rates are. And almost, I mean, I haven't seen a single time when our lender can't beat the national published interest rate for the 30-year fixed or the 30-year jumbo by a margin sufficient to generate that discount. We'll talk more about that when we get into it. But I just wanted to set your mind at ease. Okay, moving on.
So these are the 3 program advantages that we offer to every buyer that works with us. And then here's the additional programs and services. So these are the 5 things that we're going to do for them. So we're going to provide them with a home finder portal. Now, this is a very fancy way of saying a search. So if you have an IDX search of some sort that is branded with your information on it, that's what this is. We're going to put them on a search. Our home finder portal gives you a backstage pass to the MLS as if you were an agent. You will have the ability to see all of the homes for sale based on your own search criteria, and more importantly, get to act on them before most agents even show them to other buyers. This service puts you in position to act quickly on some of the best deals in the market. Raise your hand if you already are currently sending homes to your clients through MLS or some other IDX feed. Amazing.
Everybody is, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
so the majority of us are already doing this. This is something we already do. Number 2 is the pre-market and off-market properties. Now, this might be a little bit more challenging for some of us, but you as the buyer gain exclusive access to our entire pre-market and off-market listing inventory. These properties include coming soon listings of our own and other top agents, sellers not yet on the market, new construction, and investor-owned properties. This enables you to make an offer on a property without competition from other buyers and avoid a bidding war. Now, that may be something that you have at your own brokerage. Here at Real Estate Experts, we actually pay somebody to maintain a list daily of all of the coming soon and off-market opportunities that exist through Top Agent Network, through Compass Coming Soon, through Zillow, through Redfin, through MLS. And so our agents get that daily list emailed to them, and then it's maintained in a document. And what we do is we allow our buyers to leverage information off of that document to create opportunities for themselves. We have about 600 properties on that document. Are all 600 properties going to fit your buyer's needs? Absolutely not. But odds are there's something in there that might tickle their fancy. And so we want to make sure we give them access to that. And number three is strategic negotiation expertise. Now, if you remember Brett in the beginning of this call, we actually require all of our agents at Real Estate Experts to become certified negotiation experts. When they onboard, they are required to go through that class within the first 90 days of being here. So our team sells over 700 homes per year. We leverage this vast experience and industry relationships to get you the best price, terms, and conditions on your home purchase. In some cases, we can even get the seller to pay some of your closing costs when you buy your home. And so we leverage, because we're all certified negotiation experts, we leverage the tools and techniques that we've learned to create opportunities for you in the negotiation side of things. Number 4 is best in market financing. This is just making sure we have, let me simplify this. This is your preferred lenders who give better deals than other lenders. If someone was to go to Bank of America and get the standard rate, or a banker get a standard rate at 7%, I have a preferred lender that can get it down to 6.3. And that savings, this may be information that you may already know this, but every 1 point in a loan, so if you go from 6 to 7, is roughly a 10% increase in their payment every single month. And so if I can save 0.8%, 0.8 basis points for a client, I can typically save them over the life of their loan hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the purchase price, tens of thousands even. And so our preferred lending partners have the experience to get you the best loan with the best possible rates for your specific situation. They are also skilled in creative financing to limit the amount of money you need to come to closing, and even the option of getting you into your home without having to make a payment for the first 60 days that you live there. Now, some of you might be asking, how do you do that? You all know that if you finish after the first of the month, you have to wait 30 days before you can actually get their first mortgage payment. So if we can get them in right after the first of the month, we can typically get up to 60 days of, if we can get them to close, we can typically get 60 days of no mortgage payment paid back to them, which for some of these properties is $5,000 plus, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, which is an easy way for us to get them that $10,000 guarantee. And then last but not least is the cancellation guarantee. A cancellation guarantee backs all of these services. If you are not completely satisfied with the job we're doing for you, you can cancel your agreement with no additional charge from us. We've included an outline of our guarantee at the bottom of this agreement. This is basically saying if we suck and you think we suck, you can cancel this agreement, because we don't want to force you to work with someone who's not working for you. Now, there are some stipulations to this. If we're in the middle of an offer, if we've made an offer on the property, go ahead, Brett, you can dive into those a little bit.
Oh, no. yeah, if we're in the middle of, if this is valid, you'll see when we get to there are some terms and conditions to this agreement, and that is, obviously if they've written an offer, they can't cancel. That's not one of the things, but really the cancellation guarantee, you'll find if you haven't been using a buyer agreement, the first part of it is getting over it in your own mind. That is going to be the first hurdle for you, is getting over it in your own mind. The cancellation guarantee is kind of a little bit of a pressure relief, honestly. And what I've found in experience is if you're nervous about the agreement, your buyer's going to be nervous about the agreement. If you're relaxed about it, they're like, oh, great. And so as I've delivered this myself hundreds of times, the cancellation guarantee is really gives them an out, and is a bit of a pressure relief. So that makes the agreement overall easier to sign. Let's continue on to the next, the client concierge. Yeah, additional program.
Yeah.
Wait, no, yeah. Well,
So this goes back to, I believe it's number 4 or number 5, which is you must get an agreement in writing about your value upfront and the right to negotiate it. So basically what we're going to ask them is, hey, there might be times when the listing agent is offering a lower commission than what is standard in our market. All we want is the opportunity to negotiate with the seller on your behalf to get us our full commission. And if you're okay with that, then here's sort of what that looks like. So this is the Client Concierge Club. So when you enroll in the Buyer's Advantage program, you become a client of ours for life. We want you to be happy about your home years from now as you were on the day you moved in. To accomplish that, we've established the Client Concierge Club, which gives you access to discounted rates from the vendors we work with and a variety of other services to make your life better and easier. So these are the things that we're going to offer to them, and one of them is going to be the opportunity to negotiate. Here's what you need to do to participate. Agree that you are using a real estate expert or rep to help you buy your home, which simply means that you will give us your search criteria so we can set you up on our home finding portal, which hopefully we're all doing that already. Notify us of any home you want to see and that we will show it to you as quickly as possible. Allow us to prepare, present, and negotiate any offer you want on any home you'd like, and we will use our skills and experience to work to get you the best possible price, terms, and conditions on the home. This includes new construction homes, for sale by owner, and any home you find either on your own or through us. And last but not least is inform all other agents, builders, and home sellers that you're working with with us if you should come into contact with them without us being with you. That's to protect you should an agent at a listing try and poach your client. And we want to prep them to let them know that, hey, there are going to be people who are going to want to talk to you.
And this is the perfect opportunity, guys, where we always, when we go through and role play this training, the actual buyer presentation, now we're just going over the agreement, but when we train on this is where you would tell a client, oh, by the way, if you want to go see any new construction, before you ever consider going, make sure you bring me with you, because builders, they do offer some broker incentives at times for either upgrades or closing cost credits that they might not offer to retail consumers straight off the street. And I want to be able to get those for you. And if you register without me being there, unfortunately, you would waive any of those benefits. They won't allow me to negotiate on your behalf. So I know there was a question earlier about Lennar. Now, we'll get into the actual negotiation portion of this in the next segment here. So Joey, I'll take point number 2. But if you get this agreement, it does give you the opportunity to negotiate with Lennar. You would be adding your commission onto the purchase price, and they already have a preset purchase price. So we'll talk about how you get paid in the scenarios where they're not offering a commission. It may not work with Lennar. It would work. It does work in a traditional negotiation if you're working with a listing agent. So here's where the rubber meets the road. Point number 2. Document your agreement by signing a standard California buyer representation agreement. Now, the buyer broker agreement we like using is the one from Silvar, which is the PRDS version. You certainly can use the CAR buyer agreement, but quite honestly, to me, it's quite intimidating for a new buyer because I think it's like 6 pages or something. And the PRDS version, which we will show you in a second, Joey, when we finish this page, we can show them that. The PRDS version is much less intimidating. In my experience in working with buyers, here's what I find. If we have them sign a 1 or 2 page agreement like this, that's very value laden, we're talking about all these things that we're doing and we're not asking for much in return, it's a very easy agreement to get signed. And then once they've signed one thing, it's a lot easier to get them to sign the next thing. You all know this from writing offers. Once they sign that agency disclosure, they're like, they're moving through and signing everything else. So number 2 is where it is. So document your agreement as a standard by signing a standard California buyer representation agreement. Here it is. As a part of this agreement to our team, is due a fee of no less than 2.5% of the purchase price of the home you buy, and you agree to let us negotiate our fee as part of the purchase and sales agreement. Now, in addition, at our company, we have a TC fee. It's more than more than transaction coordination. It's really kind of like a personal assistant combined with a transaction coordinator, and agents pay $6.95 for that. We ask our clients to pay that. So, and in about 90% of the cases, they have no issue with it, as long as you articulate it, which we say real estate experts collects a fee of $6.95 towards the internal processing your transaction with our company. You're giving us permission to ask the seller to pay this on your behalf. If the seller chooses not to pay this, you'll compensate us at closing as part of your normal closing costs. But number A, so what does that mean? They are giving us permission to negotiate our fee as part of the purchase and sales agreement. This is how it plays out in form. And this is also why I'm glad that we have a lot of agents on here, including listing agents, because in order for all of us to do well, we will need to collaborate. And when I say collaborate, I'm talking about listing agents in the marketplace, understanding this mode or method of how buyers agents will be paid, because it's going to go down something like this. Let's say Joey's the listing agent, okay? And I've presented my offer and there's 3 other offers. And it turns out we're doing back and forth on the negotiations. We send our offer in and we're at $1.5 million. But guess what? Joey's only offering 1.5% on the buyer agent commission. So I'm short 1%. But Joey's negotiated, Joey and I have negotiated. There's 4 other offers on the table. We finally get our offer in and settled, and we're at 1.5. I call Joey and Joey says, "Congratulations, your offer's accepted." I said, "Great, here's what we're gonna do. I need a credit of 1%, basically, for closing costs so that my buyer can pay the balance of my 2.5% commission. So with your permission, Joey, I'm going to send over a final counter offer addendum at 1.515 and a 1% credit back to my buyer. And from that 1% credit, my buyer is going to pay the 1% difference between the 1.5%, Joey, that you're offering and the 2.5% that he's contracted to pay me." Does that make sense? I can't hear
That's
anybody.
a big deal.
Can you guys hear me?
Are there any questions on that piece of the puzzle?
Hey, Brett.
Makes sense.
Oh, sorry. Brett, I was just wondering, so if the agreed contract that was accepted is, say, $1 million and it's 1.5%, you're going to send back a counter offer to say 1 million plus that, whatever that number of 1% is, another $10,000 or whatever it is, and ask for a buyer credit in that addendum. So you're raising the sale price, but
Yeah, in the addendum.
credit, correct?
Asking for a credit. Yeah, I'm negotiating a credit for the seller. I'm just telling the seller, "Hey, look, we're going to go to 1.515, and I'm adding, and you're going to give me a credit back for 1%."
So you're upping their accepted offer that 1 percentage point and then asking for it back, correct? Okay.
Correct. Yeah, and I'm giving you this kind of is in the worst case scenario, which is a multiple offer situation. And it's actually a very likely case scenario. If if you don't have any competition, and there's no other offers on the table, this is a much easier negotiation, right? You're just writing your offer with a 1% credit back for closing costs to pay for the shortfall in your commission. Or if it was if they weren't paying any commission, it's 2.5% credit for closing costs. And you would tell your listing agent, "Hey, look, we have to have the credit for closing costs. So if you're going to counter us, you can counter us, fine, but leave the credit for closing costs in there because my buyer needs it to pay their closing costs, which includes my commission. Does that make sense?
Hey, Brett, there's a couple questions
Awesome.
in the chat that I make sure we hit on. So Karen says, what about the
Sure.
increase in fees? Who pays those?
You're talking about property taxes, et cetera, et cetera? I'm assuming, Karen?
I'm talking
type in the
about
chat.
when I'm talking about transfer tax and all the other little nuances that escrow fees,
Yeah.
title fees, when they go, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Does it go up as the price
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
up?
yeah, for sure. So what we know is escrow and title fees go up with the price of the house. So yes, there's going to be some incremental amount. All we're doing is increasing the purchase price. And in effect, Karen, if you think about this, it's the same purchase price that the buyer and seller would have agreed upon before the Department of Justice monkeyed with our commissions. Like they're paying the taxes and the fees on the same price that it would have been had we had a 2.5% commission baked into the seller's contract price. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I'm just curious as to whether like DeLeon or somebody else or whomever, I don't know, whoever, whatever, would say, well, they're increasing this, but it's going to cost you guys. I'm just looking, play the devil's advocate of a buyer's agent, a seller's agent.
Yeah,
saying,
you may have, if you get a nitpicky listing agent and says, hey, I pulled out my calculator and I calculated it's going to cost my seller $267 more, even if you give us 15 grand more and we have to pay, it's going to cost my seller $267 more. If push comes to shove on that, I'm going to tell the listing agent, look, I'll cover the $267.
Okay, no worries. That's all that's what's my
right.
I get it totally.
Yeah, no, but that's a good question. That's a very good nuanced question. Very, very good question.
And then Chris, to answer your question, this is after you're in contract. Typically this is for a multiple offer scenario. Typically you'd go in after you're in contract. If it's not a multiple offer scenario, you can do this right up front in the initial offer. And then Brett, Michelle asked, don't you get seller or loan officer pushback? Loan agent pushback?
Loan officer pushback, like buyers the closing cost credits can increase the amount of the buyer's actual closing costs. So if the buyer agent commission is part of the closing costs, that's not a problem. This is better than them having to come up with an additional down payment. Because if the buyer was having to write a check for it, we're increasing the purchase price. So we're kind of rolling it into the loan. Michelle said, don't you get listing agent pushback? In some cases you do, but here's what I can tell you. Like, we were able to make this work when nobody else was doing it. Now, if we move to a climate, and it looks like we will, where buyer agent commissions are uncoupled from the listing agreement and buyer's agents are going to be forced to negotiate with the listing agents, I think we're going to see a climate where, we're all going to have to play fair if we want to get paid. We're all going to need to cooperate and collaborate if we want to get paid. So it's going to be on a case-by-case basis, Michelle, but this is also a situation where you're certainly going to want to play nice with your listing agents, so such that you afford yourself the best opportunity to have a positive negotiation experience. Tim Warman asked, this is a bit of a different approach than using the SPBB with the RPA. I'm not quite familiar with the SPBB form is, which asks the seller to pay for part or all the buy side commission. So I can't exactly speak to that particular. Dale, if the offer is already accepted, how can you use the buyer agent increase the price, ask for credit? Again, you're going to want to go into the negotiations letting your buyer agent say no. There is a risk. What if the seller or listing agent say absolutely not, we're not going to give you any kind of credit? Then your client is in a position where they got to write a check. And you may be in a position where you're negotiating with your client that fee. And so in this new climate we're moving into, guess what? There's more uncertainty in how and you will get paid. Your ability to negotiate, your ability to articulate your value, and your ability to navigate the new landscape is going to be paramount in how you're getting paid. But I think the net effect of this is going to be really good buyer agents who are really delivering value are going to do really, really well. Those people who've been kind of, for lack of a better word, you know, holding open houses and collecting checks as, as buyers walk through the door. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. So it's a great opportunity. And you know, when this first came down, many agents, including myself, were a little freaked out. Like, hey, what's this going to mean to the change of real estate? But then I realized, you know what? Shoot, this is the same thing we were doing. You know, when I started my team in 2012. And like, I don't know why we stopped using that version of the buyer agreement, but we did. But now we're bringing it back.
I'll also offer this to you as well, which is that,
yeah.
real quick, Brett, I'll also offer that that's probably the question that comes up most in the conversation with your buyers, which is, if the listing agent or the seller doesn't offer this, you know, am I going to have to come out of pocket? And the script for that is simple. It's, I will never allow a commission to get in the way of you getting your dream home, of you purchasing the home that's right for you. I'll never let a commission get in the way of that. And so there is inherent risk in any of this, of course. There's risk now because you can walk into a property that your buyers love and the agent's offering a 1% buy side commission or $10,000 or 3%. So I don't think it adds more risk. It's just a different level of risk that comes into the equation.
Okay. Can you repeat the counteroffer message? Anna Maria. Yeah, so it is going to be, you're negotiating with, we will get a recording of this and we will send you the slides. And if you have more nuanced questions, I think we are going to be running short on time. We want to provide an opportunity for you guys to dive deeper on this. And Joey, I think there's one thing I do want to share, the last page of this. We have the full copy of the agreement that we can send out and share to you guys, share with you all. But the conditions and limitations. So this is the conditions and limitations, because we have the sell for free, and it says the sell for free advantage is limited in nature, time, and scope. Further, sell for free is only a reference to the fees charged by us, and that will charge no listing commission. It does not cover or include any way charges by other parties, such as title and escrow fees. This refers specifically to the fees charged by us. The home warranty applies to a standard customary residential home warranty from a home warranty company, licensed by the state of California, or repair certain items, blah, blah, blah. It's typical of that provided by buyers of existing homes. This is 400. We're actually increasing that to 750. The savings guarantee applies under the following criteria. Subject shall be available on the MLS. Multiple offer situations are excluded. The buyer savings should be calculated to a total minimum of the 10,000 following methods. Difference in the acquisition cost compared to appraised value. So if the property appraises for more, great. If negotiated contract price is $1 million and the appraised value is $1.010 million, that represents a savings of 10 grand. Closing costs or credits from the seller that are negotiated on behalf of the buyer. If you negotiate a closing cost credit sufficient to cover your either deficiency in commission or your commission if they're not offering any, that would constitute the $10,000 savings. The savings on loan rate compared to average market rates identified by Mortgage News Daily. If you click on this and look, like if you've got any really good lender can beat the national published rates by a quarter point or more. If you take a quarter point on $1 million loan, that is $2,500 a year. 30-year loan, $2,500 savings times 30 years is $75,000 savings. It's almost always you're going to beat the savings there. And then negotiation of any services that benefit the buyer, such as termite work and home warranty. So we're not lenders, and when we communicate with lenders, your qualification depends on your particular circumstances. This client concierge club, that's kind of, I put that together as, it's like our past client club, really is what it is. And so that this is the agreement. That constitutes. So Joey, any thoughts or questions that we go through?
Yeah, there's just two more things.
Very clear in
which
articulating
is
what
this is the PRDS. So this is that buyer broker representation agreement we mentioned. It's 2 pages versus 6.
broker agreement.
If you haven't seen this before, please go into your MLS and download this. It's a much easier agreement. We do want this agreement signed in tandem with the buyer agreement that we've created. So you want both of these agreements signed when you choose to work with your buyers. And I do believe that there will be a law coming down the pipe that says by January 1st, 2025, these will be required if you choose to work with a buyer. So we're coming to the end. This is an opportunity. If this is your first time joining us in one of these trainings, please join our monthly mastermind. You can take your phone out, scan this QR code, or if you don't have a smartphone out handy, you're welcome to just email me. It's joey@therealexpert.com, and I can absolutely add you so that you get an email and an invitation every time we do one of these. We do them typically every other month. We host one of these events, and then typically if there is something that is pressing in nature, we'll hurry up and get one done in the month in between. So we'll make sure you're a part of that. And last but not least is that if this conversation, you feel like you want to go a little bit deeper, you want to have an understanding of sort of what we talked about here, how it applies to you, what the scripting is, what the process is, I'd invite you to book a 30-minute strategy call. This QR code goes to my Calendly link, and you can book a 30-minute business planning strategy session right there. It'll show up in my calendar, and we can dive a little bit deeper into everything we talked about today and get you on the path to making sure you have the value proposition and the data, all of that backed up so that you can actually use this the next time you meet with a buyer. Are there any, I know we have a few minutes left. We have about 2 minutes left. Are there any other questions that we want to ask? Anything else? All right, we nailed it. No
You
questions.
go ahead and come off of mute. Go ahead and come off
That's
of mute
amazing.
if you like. Was this conversation helpful for you guys?
Very helpful.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
for
Awesome.
sure.
Great. Glad to know. So yeah, let's just stay ahead of it and let's get out there and sell some houses. Have a great day, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, Brett.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Brett.
thanks, Brett.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks, Joey.